liilaamaya.
Drive off a cliff, hide in the midst of strife and resist to a higher glimpse of hyphenated abyss, to a quite glistened dyke prison of mics and wisdom at a price given, twice hidden for rice figments and dry stigmas, and pie stitchas glide into a nigga and I might hit ya. Side drippa, I mission to find my little denied rhythm, supplied indents for cries and winces, and shied sinnas gyrate within them, pirate dividends slide, for instance, about who tied up the witnesses and dried their interest for a surprise ninja to try to win them. A night so listened, deprived of windex to fry the privilege of a prize so smitten of wide vixens, bribed and slit vents to slyly get them each fly, each kitten. Snide remarks titted with Nile river fishes. Kyle did it, piled on hindrances to the heights with their grimace, meant to ride and shit when the vine spelled out Christmas. For a sigh ridded of its why to the sit-ins where they rile up women to be jive with picked men, only to return to a high where its zits rest. The rhyme that you lit with a fire so timid till its whites out riblets. He will sign for a signalette, and chives will fit them in their soup with rioters and figments of the once wild kristen, now tired and bitless from the wires they riddled us. With power surges and coward murders, sour purges and louder herders, gals who splurge in owl's subservience to whoever dude is clever, moved to sever my tool whose was better than a clue for heifers. He stood to weather a doomed venture, cause his roots were tethered to a studious measure. Who could have let him brood then lever my mule to the lesser of Yuletide pressure, cooling his head that hurts till the broom could get her, my looms, my treasure, my wool, my lecture, to a few peddlers who knew time rendered these fools to fester and subject a groom to say yes sir to the room that dentures assumed his pester and spoon-fed in my head burr. A true gesture to jewelers or texters. Each include their debtors to a new pleasure. Goons haven't seen yet the birds, but they so swoon with their feathers to remove jesters whose poo was left to stir in the boom of a nectar for some ruin to collect and blur their glue to their rectum fur in case rules bend and serve a nuisance or a blemish or a derp. Fluids pending on nerves to blue and red and perp, they bloom so heaven would curse. The super hens and purse of hooters and men and worse, a floozy with a dead-end turban. Vroom into the future will send a hearse for anyone who sues you to the recommended birth, only to be taken, forsaken, raked in, and lakes bring cake in from stay-ins and a delayed grin. They celebrate our kin, and Drake's dick never caves into these Malay sins of a gray whim trying to debate big pins just to wade grim and hate him for never saying hey or fin when they relay children getting paid to blimp out every way so that thin people can play and do chin-ups till they're frail or zen with the cadence that many flip to derail toward their limbs so they won't be determined as vermin or turbulence, and the major hints that God gave to dip in the flakes of a frosted spin, chained to his tin man heart that they turned awake and rinsed to bake biscuits in his frame of a gimp, tame and friends with the line so brave and kiddish that he blames the Wizard of Oz for not giving Dorothy the Scarecrow more speed and narrower holes to their growth as beings and perishables, so they vote the steed barely goes past the last hashtag that grabbed her ass and masked it fast till they yapped and clapped, then back to the rack of fully patent grasps at tact and acts that are sporadic enough to enact a wild new path and drastically change radically insane man satchels to plain and tattle again, that they ripped her from the magazines and chains to half-ass the range of happenings that pertain to an everlasting reign. Challenges remain. Do saps get changed for rabid claims that were ran off as Satan's latest class of deranged flag-flapping games of inhabited basements and tragic cases of flab and pain from gastrics once lamed for a fabulous gaze at my cast holding veins that had to relax to be saved or off into the trash they'd be slain? Rabbits and hanes the rash from the taint, but damn it, I've remained even through lavish defamation. The cattle took my name and ran it through flames the day I wagged my mane in a dramatic way. They said I'd imagine the plane that I took to save the Titanic and its tear stains from giraffes in which I lay. I nab at their orange and brown and say, how does purge sound? None for me. I'll take a steak, then vape, and be afraid of the next gay putting me on their plate to be a fascist trait of their fat face. May oceans dwell with emotional secrets to tell of the coming of the ages on the front pages, surfing waves and shit. What a frontier. Buns on my head and I gear to run the freer, repugnant beetle who humps and flees to her with a smug teeter on the totter. The father to my one and only cheerleader, front of my car smeared with bug blood and beer. My car chugs and leers, all circumferences and geezers to strum their peters with something lunges. Then they bleed her with one nug. He gets to meet her, done deeper than a cum depleter, strung creepier than a sun peeper. Gun to the jeep and burn the redundant freak, sir.
You don't mind?